Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us at GGY, the return of our roundtable discussion. We actually took a bit of a break because when the new government came into power, we thought, give them a little bit of time, let them enact their agenda. Initially, we said 3 months, then it became 6 months.
No, but it's 3 months.
It's been 3 months, right?
3 months.
Yeah, but we're not back on the street again.
No.
I don't see the need to.
Not yet.
To do that.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, so we're back with the roundtable discussion, which we hope to make it a monthly discussion. And to start things off, we have two very special guests. We have Kusum and Rehan Jayavikrama, two gentlemen that doesn't require much of an introduction. Rehan was meant to have joined us many times in the past, but we finally got him. And Kusum has, I think you're our
this is my third
one. So you're only one behind Chaturanga.
I'm almost a regular.
And Harsha too, I think.
Harsha's been twice.
Yeah.
This is your third. Chaturanga has been 4 times. So we have, the Deputy Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Exposed to the NPP before the election.
In fact, you guys overlapped.
I know, I remember.
The day of the election, we had one right up to the cut-off time.
Yeah.
And then he came right after you, and you guys met, I think, for the first time, right?
Yeah, that was that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about the Honorable Minister in a minute. But thank you, gents, for joining us.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, I don't think we need introductions, but how have you all been? What have you been doing since the end of the election cycle? I know I still see you on TV. You, of course, we've heard has sort of stepped away from active politics, which I'm hoping will free your mind a little bit to speak freely.
So we are hoping that his step back is temporary, but in the meantime, because Rehan likes talking so much, we thought we'll get together and do a podcast or something, so we can get our thoughts out.
Okay.
So we've already had our first episode. It's not out yet. It's being edited.
Yeah.
We spoke to Dr. Saranamuthu.
With Saranamuthu.
Yeah, it's called, the working title is Hard Knocks with Rehan and Kusum, but we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
Want
to
yeah, that's right.
Modern. Yeah. Hard Knocks. So maybe Kusum, the photos you sent me, I've used one of the 3 you sent me. Rather quizzical look. Maybe you need to do a studio portrait like Rehan's.
I think we should. Yeah,
to send
I
around,
have an election campaign like Rehan, so I don't have the big lion flag in the back and all that.
So that's what you all are doing.
So we're doing So we're doing a podcast, and I was telling Kusum that it's quite boring for me not to be in politics because I'm used to working so much, and he knows how hard I've been working. So I just told him to help me out a bit, and I asked him if he wants to do this show, and that's that. And we had our first guest. Okay. So hopefully we'll be one of the first to get it after we do the edit.
I also think there's a lot missing in the mainstream, and I think with English language there's a little bit of we need to enhance the mainstream a little bit more than it is right now, because it's currently a little bit bland.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons we did this was because during the Aragal era, we saw that there was a dearth in English content. There was lots of English Sinhala content and all that.
Yeah.
But in English, because the Colombo middle classes, upper middle classes, the diaspora, they also need information and content. Right?
Absolutely.
So we found that when we initially started doing on the street, we were just doing live sort of streams with our phone, and it was getting picked up in London, in Melbourne, and all sorts. And then we thought we'll make it more formal like this. I mean, initially when we were having chats, we just had informal chats where people just came, sat with us, talked. I mean, during the Aragal, right? Like people's mindsets was slightly different. But,
these conversations are kind of extensions of activism. So you all are still performing an activist role while you've taken a step back from the
street. Because there are certain ideas we fought for, Kusum, because we had a set of stated goals. I mean, now we have an NPP government. We didn't fight for any government. We fought for outcomes.
Yeah.
So now it's an NPP
you are
government.
still supported though, right?
Well,
No,
I mean,
that's just how people like to color you on Twitter.
I know.
But
well,
you were never.
no, we have been called everything. We've been called SJB supporters. We've been called.
Yeah.
Now, NPP, we've been called
So,
NGO Karos, Kakos.
Yeah, we've been called
All
all
about
sorts of
being called
names.
NGO Karos.
NGO Kakas.
Yeah.
That's the worst one.
Yeah.
I mean, at least if we had some dollars coming in, that would have been so bad. but-
I'm very surprised that your names were not on that fake USAID list.
Yeah,
Was that fake?
The names are fake.
We're slightly insulted by that. We maybe should have been there. But okay, so we'll talk about the opposition, we'll talk about various things. I mean, so first of all, the first of 5 NPP budgets is done, the very first one. I think you can see the annoyance of the SJB because I think the pink ideology has won over the red ideology, at least for now. You can see that, their rhetoric during the campaign versus their governance style has moved so much to the middle, right? You're literally on top of the SJB right now. I mean, so there is an ideological, maybe a mismatch, or I mean, when I listen to Harsha speak in Parliament, you can hear the annoyance because he's trying to always bring out the fact that where do you stand ideologically? Because everything that you stood for, your socialist ideals, social protection, progressive taxation, justice, accountability, of course some of them
Some of it is there.
But a lot of the things that they maybe wanted to do economically is constrained by the IMF.
Yes.
But of course they have 4 more budgets to move more to the left, right? I mean, the first one, maybe a very pragmatic approach, but people didn't just vote for pragmatism. They voted for accountability, change, system change goals that we fought for. So, there's 159 MPs in Parliament. They're facing a massive bureaucracy with a resistance to change, right? Because entrenched, whatever. I mean, the inertia to change is quite significant in the system, right? So, so people probably need to be patient, but I don't think patience is also infinite. You can already see, certain quarters speaking up. You can see a few protests popping up here and there, mostly sort of trade unions and things like that. Meanwhile, at least my view, I don't know how the rest of the group feels, the opposition feels like they're flailing a little bit. They don't know how to get at the NPP. So right now, if you look at what's happening in Parliament, you have this bad faith chaos that gets created by the likes of Rattarang and Shamin, the guy from Badul, what's his name?
Chamara
Sampath and all, and they also seem to get a lot of time in Parliament as well. I think Chamara Sampath had 27 minutes the other day to speak there. So with all of that, how do you see the political landscape now? Sort of, what are we now? 4 months?
3 months.
3 months with the government,
into
6 months, 5 months with the president.
Into the presidency. Whoever wants to pick that up.
You can start with the person attached to a political party.
Okay, so, Kusum.
I think I've been on TV saying the same thing, so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
I think the SJB has to improve drastically in terms of optics as well as how things work. Having said that, the criticism of the budget, Mr. Premadasa made the best critique because he said X, Y, and Z were part of your manifesto, and X, Y, and Z are no longer part of even the discourse of your government. So basic things that they talked about in terms of how they were going to manage this IMF program, that's all been forgotten. And on the other side, they're also using the IMF to say that because of the IMF, we want to do all these other beautiful, wonderful things, but because of the IMF, we just don't have the fiscal space. Yeah. Now that's not a valid argument because the fiscal space is what you make. The IMF didn't say you have to cap your fiscal space at any specific level. They said give us a primary account surplus. Yeah. So as a left progressive organization with a Marxist-Leninist organization backing it, if you look at the tax structure right now, that's a tax structure that Ranil Wickremesinghe could have put out. There's nothing stopping Ranil Wickremesinghe from putting that tax structure out. So it's a very moderate tax rate that doesn't change. We are still depending on indirect taxes. We have a very marginal.
There was a heavy critique of neoliberalism.
Yeah, so neoliberalism is partly this, right? You tax incomes at a lower rate than wealth. And where you tax incomes, in Sri Lanka what's happening right now is you can earn $2 million and you get taxed at a certain rate. And then if you earn $5 million, you get taxed at the exact same rate. Yeah. So there is no top marginal rate of tax. So and there are people who earn $1 million, $1.5 million and 400,000. They'll all roughly fall in the same kind of category. And that doesn't make sense. Someone who makes 300, 400,000 rupees shouldn't be paying 30% on any slab of their income, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's not a progressive tax structure. So just on that very basic level, I don't understand how an NPP, left progressive, Marxist-Leninist party or government can come out with such a average, moderate tax structure that Ranil Wickremesinghe himself, if he woke up on the right side of the bed on a certain day, he could have come up with this. So that's one critique I'll make. And
okay, so I have a counter critique that I love. I love it now that Kusum represents the SJB and I don't represent
you don't anymore.
Yeah, you represent your own thoughts.
I represent all of you all now.
Oh, before you was.
So basically what my point about this whole thing is that we all say Marxism, Leninism, we say that this is what we expect from them and blah, 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 right? But the bottom line is that the MPP vote base, if you look at it, it's the same exact vote base that voted for Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who voted for Mahila Rajapaksa prior to that. Part of them voted for the Yahapalne. So this is not that 3%. The 3% is the Marxist-Leninist groups that are within their party, which is the block 3%.
Sure.
But what they won by is Gota's votes or Gotabaya Rajapaksa's votes. So their rhetoric at the election where they said they were going to get freebies, they themselves knew that this was a lie. But we all know in this country, Chaminda, rhetoric wins elections. You know, the more you thump your chest and you act nationalistic or you act too much like a patriot, you know, that's what gets you the votes. But these guys promised what they said to win. But I think the core principle here is that the people didn't, in my opinion, and I'm not arguing with Kusum, this is not an argument. Yeah. I agree with most of the things he said. But I think the people of this country voted for the NPP to get rid of corruption.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Right?
That was one of the...
Okay, I think the economy was... I think the economy was secondary. I think what they voted was... It was Aragaleya vote.
Yeah.
It was to punish everyone who was involved in ruining the country. It is a protest vote. It is a completely anti-establishment vote.
Yeah, repudiation of 75
exactly.
years.
So right? I think when they... Because these are smart guys. The NPP has, me and Kusum will both agree, they have a lot of smart internal decision makers that we don't really know about. Right. That don't come out externally. Yeah. But they very well knew what these promises were. They knew that they couldn't keep it. But they also knew, Chaminda, that if they break it and if they focus on the anti-corruption front, that
people will excuse them.
People will excuse them because people will get... Because now what people are saying, even when I speak to my old constituent... Sorry, Chaminda, go ahead.
No.
Go for it.
The thought came up because as a party you have to play to win.
Yeah.
Right now, if you looked at the polling, at one point the SJB was ahead. SJB was ahead. I mean, if you looked at that ICC
Health something.
That polling which is
IHP.
That's the one we all looked at, right? And as a leader, Sajid Premadas was also ahead in that poll and literally was in the final stretch.
He was ahead momentarily for a while. But AKD was also ahead for some time.
Right, and then when Ranil came into the picture, you saw the split.
No, I'm going to be a little bit controversial and I'm going to say a very prominent person of the NPP told me after this election victory, they said you all had this election 6 months ago. Yeah. You all had it in the bag. And we were okay with losing, but we want a really big majority in parliament. Yeah. Not a majority, we need a sizable number that we can work with and be a good opposition. But they said the minute you started taking the guys
from the UNP, the
SLNP and the SLPP and the board to her.
We talked about this the last time.
I mean, we asked this from Iran, from Harsha. I mean, it made no sense to anybody.
Exactly. And we all had this problem. Kusum had this problem, I had this problem, Harsha had this problem, Iran had this problem. But I think the powers that be did obviously have a problem. Yeah. They didn't want to make it a solution. So, Chaminda, what I'm trying to get at, sorry Kusum for a sec, what I'm trying to get at is that yes, the NPP lied about what they're going to give to the people. But the SJB should be much more productive critics than what they are now.
No, yeah.
They can't just say we voted against this budget because your rhetoric was wrong.
Yeah.
Especially if the SJB would have presented this very same budget.
Yeah, yeah. On the corruption angle though, I mean, corruption is about changing the system, right?
Yeah.
So how much of this has changed from what you see? I'm just asking. Have you seen big changes in the way things are done?
I can.
Some of the appointments that have been made, are they transparent? Do you know what criteria was used?
Kusum, what I can say is that, I mean,
it's early days.
Let's be really honest, and I don't know, think that it's better than before.
Yes.
Certain aspects of it.
I'm sure it's better than before. I think this budget is the best budget we've had in about 5 years. 100%. There's no question about that.
Exactly. I mean,
there's no question about
how they deal with the speaker.
Yeah.
They didn't have to fire him. They didn't have to. They had the majority.
But
even if there was a vote.
If I miss it, this budget would have been an amazing budget in 2015. You can come to 2025 and put the same budget when we've had 3 years of an economic collapse, 5 years of an economic downturn after the Easter attacks. Yeah. That's not going to cut it. But just to finish the point on the corruption issue, I just don't see that there's, now for example, when you have these people appointed to chairmen of various institutes and institutions and Western Province governor, etc. I mean, I'm not pinpointing people, but I'm saying, do you know if there's a transparent criteria for how these people were selected? Do we know what their mandate is?
But don't you think, I mean, I understand that they came in saying that, you know, we are the party of good governance and anti-corruption and all of that. But when we question them on those grounds, aren't we holding them to a higher standard than we've ever held anybody
We do have
before?
to, don't we? Because this is the time for the highest possible standard.
You're right. Because when it came to the speaker, like I said, they didn't have to fire him. Yeah. But they knew. And this
exactly.
is... And Kusum...
So on one side, they do appreciate this.
Yeah, but
on the other side, they don't.
But Kusum...
I've been very open about the Sri Lankan Airlines chairman. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But Kusum, one thing is that if we were there and we were making these mistakes, we got to ask ourselves whether we would fix it. Or whether we would think, oh, let's just let this slide, this is not going to be a big issue.
Yeah, but the argument so far is that they have been slightly better than what came before. Or they would be better than what the SJ would be. Yeah. So, okay, those are all fine arguments.
But
I'm talking about the reality of the situation right now is I haven't seen anything change in terms of how government works. I've spoken to a few entrepreneurs, business leaders who said nothing much has really changed at the customs, while the president's secretary is a former customs official, head of the customs. Nothing has changed. There's no CCTV introduction, there's no digitization. I mean, they're talking about that. The CCTV proposal was 2 years ago. And still today, 5 months into the AKD presidency, there's no CCTV in the customs inspection rooms, right? Yeah. So you're telling me things have changed. I'm asking for solid examples. But I'm hearing piecemeal that say we're better than the SJB. Maybe. I mean, we were both part of the SJB, right?
Okay, so if you would ask me to sort of finish off that question, I would say they are better than the rest who were there before them, but they still lack in so many different other things.
The ultimate question is, are they good enough? They're better than the rest, but will it be good enough?
Will they be good enough? Will they be good enough solely depends on how they choose to approach certain problems. Their comms, I don't think it's on point as what it used to be.
No, it's not.
Right? It's not as... When they were grabbing power, their comms were much better. But now you find their ministers, they have this sort of arrogance about the way they talk. You know, they speak about, you know, how they have this many votes in parliament. It's as if they haven't taken an example of how easy it is to topple a populist government.
Just a quick point. I watched the parliamentary sessions. You all watched the parliamentary sessions. It's a very good analogy for what he said. Yes, it's better than what it was before. The parliamentary sessions themselves have improved a little bit. But still, if you want to learn about a specific subject that's being argued about in parliament, listening to the debate in parliament doesn't give you any information. It's not an intellectual conversation. Yeah. And I expect the 160 plus of the MPP should be top intellectuals, people who know what they're talking about.
But it's not
very little. I think there is some of that, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bland.
Experience too, maybe? I mean,
yeah, it's I think mostly, look, it mostly boils down to inexperience, right? Because Kusum, out of that 158, tell me 10 people that we can think of. I can think of Bimal Ratnayaka.
Yeah.
Lal Kanta. Harini. But out of parliament, I would say Tilvin Silva, who plays a major role in all this.
Does that matter? Because experienced people collapsed the economy. Politically experienced people brought the economy to an absolute collapse, right? I mean, we are talking about political experience, right? So I mean, in terms of, I think intentions, I think there's good intentions. I think maybe too early to judge on outcomes. Maybe too early to judge on outcomes. Yeah. You know, I think the argument within our group was like, how much time do we give them before we start?
That's a good question.
For
how much time, Kusum, how much time do you think? What is going to be a yardstick?
Amount of time?
For me, of course, from certain people that I have spoken to who are in politics, 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
That's what I've been hearing 1 or 2 years.
2 years.
Two budgets. Two budgets to get to where they.
But
so okay,
end of next budget, we will really know.
Yeah.
Within next budget, we will really know in which direction they are going.
Yeah.
Because there is a start still for them.
But this budget, the fact that it was very pragmatic, doesn't that show a little bit of political maturity that they didn't swing the pendulum all the way to the left?
No, it just shows that they're smart.
On their first,
they're very smart.
Kusum, it just shows that they're
Smart.
smart, aren't
I
they?
can tell you
very
this,
smart.
if this budget is repeated next year, and if this IMF program continues in this way, by 2030 we will be in for another. By 2028, according to the IMF, we are supposed to build up to about $13 billion in reserves.
Absolutely.
If anybody thinks this is a realistic goal, when we have to borrow $1.5 to $2 billion annually from ISBs starting in 2029, this is not. I mean, I'm repeating the critique that's in the NPP manifesto. They said our tax to GDP is too low. That was their discourse until they published a manifesto and they said we will reduce the tax slabs, and that they have done. Ask the IMF, they themselves have noted in this recent review, some of the tax structure changes they've made actually reduces the number of tax files and reduces the tax rate overall, which is not something you want to do in a revenue-based fiscal consolidation.
So, the initial
so I don't want, again, I'm going into the economic aspect. Just before we cross over to the next segment, I don't know if anybody saw the government's representations in Geneva for CEDAW, which is the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. This is the first body that the Sri Lankan government, the new Sri Lankan government, engaged with the United Nations. They sent an all-female panel led by Minister Paul Raj, the Minister for Women, Affairs and Children, right? And she's actually an inspirational character, very intelligent, well-read.
Doctor, no?
But I read from a member of the NGO's Sri Lankan, Nabila Iqbal, who went to Geneva to cover it, and she said she was really disappointed with the representations made, right? They had to discuss a few things, like the MMDA, for instance. This is the 9th periodic representation that the government has made, but they had made no reference to amendments or potential changes to the MMDA, right? The MMDA, in fact, the person asking questions from the UN had mentioned that we had amended this MMDA in 2022. There was no such amendment, but the government representative didn't correct them, and instead said, actually, some of the people that are governed by the MMDA from the community are satisfied with the provisions of the MMDA. Now, I spoke to Bhavani Fonseca from the CP, and she's been doing this work on the ground. She said, people from the community have been asking for the MMDA to be reformed for the last 20, 30 years. Because there is polygamy, there is child marriages. This is happening in our country. But so this is one of the first instances this government had the opportunity to show some intellectualism on the world stage at their first representation to the United Nations. And they completely botched it. So I'm just telling you that the signs are not promising. And I know I'm biased, I'm a member of the SJB. You all might think this is part of the political game that I have to criticize the government. I am trying to be as fair as I can. And even in my articles, I've said the caveat is to give them time. But right now, the first budget has given me the idea that they are kind of worried about drifting away from Mr. Vikram Singh's plan because they don't trust their own plan. So.
Do you think beyond the rhetoric they had sort of concrete plans about governance in various areas?
They had decent plans on the campaign trail, I think.
Yeah, I mean there's a detailed
Chaturanga is someone who spoke about the faults in the IMF.
Yeah.
How the IMF sometimes gets trapped in these things.
Right.
He knows about this.
But again, I think that rhetoric was used again
I agree
to
with
win
that,
elections.
To win the election,
To win the election.
but then you can't blame them for that.
You
right?
can't.
I mean, in the
not at
sense,
all, no.
elections
because
you have to play to win.
So everyone plays that game.
Yeah, because,
100%,
because the whole point of a political party is to get
Is to
power,
win.
right? You have to play to win. So I think SJB in a way snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
SJB is a liberal party and liberal parties
yeah.
lose in Sri Lanka. That's
Yeah.
just a rule, I think.
okay.
We were UNP supporters before and we lost every election. What do you want to do about
Right.
that?
Let's go into a little bit more about this SJB towards the end. So let's look at the particular pledges that the president made, because the contention is that this vote was also for the president. I think, because not many people knew the names. I mean, it was basically this was the AKD election. People voted for that face, for that name. So people up and down the ballot,
It was like
with the tide, right?
like a Mahinda Rajapaksa vote.
Right, exactly like that. But really, I mean, 159, like you said, I can't name more than maybe 10, 15, right? That's because, the wave carried all of these people in. So we have to trust that, their credentials, all of that is what they said they are. I mean, now few things are coming up, like the speaker's issue. Now there's another issue which, I pointed out.
Cabinet minister who apparently is
Who was interdicted when he was a procurement manager and things like that. So let's see how they deal with it. I mean, they dealt with the speak issue in the right manner, I feel. But these were the 7 pledges the president made in his policy statement in Parliament after he was elected, right? So if we go through this, do you see? I mean, not all of this can be achieved, I know, overnight, but a process has to have a beginning, right? So all of this, these are processes, right? These are journeys that need to be taken as a country. Like, where do you see all these things right now if you go through them one by one? Put an end to racial politics. Do you see this?
No, but when you look at this, right?
Yeah.
Kusum, correct me if I'm wrong. The first one says restore trust.
Yeah.
That is such a wide promise.
Yeah, it's the same as transparent parliament.
And it says restore trust in the judiciary and ensure accountability.
Yeah.
But
You can read that far.
yes, I can.
Oh, sorry.
My eyesight is
Shall I?
I can see it now.
Yeah. So that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the IMF staff level agreement, okay, that was a done deal anyway. Okay, because they were going to stick with the IMF program. They knew it, they lied, but they knew that they were not going to lie in the future. Then when you look at the break market monopolies, I don't see how they have done that yet. A transparent parliament got thrown out of the bin when it came to the speaker's matter. 4th biggest person in the country, constitutionally. First is the president, second is the prime minister, third is the opposition leader,
Third is opposite.
4th is the speaker. So the 4th most important, when that happens, then that's gone too. Then when it can't see the other one, but yeah, Kusum. So from what we saw there,
I mean,
yeah, I don't see a lot of progress there, but I'm sorry to say that all this is allowed to happen in the absence of a weak opposition.
Yeah, there is no opposition.
All right, that's why people, Kusum, you'll be surprised. I had a few people calling me from Veligama today, saying they don't want to contest from the SJB, they don't want to contest from the UMP. Since Namal is your classmate, can you please call Namal and try to get me nomination? I'm thinking,
Oh no!
yeah.
of course.
People want you to.
No, people want me to speak to him to grant them nominations for local government elections. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do that, but can you see, isn't this very similar to what you saw? Remember Mahinda Rajapaksa hanging on a window in Madhabulam?
Yes.
Now, did we ever think when we saw that still, that 2019 his brother would be president and he would be prime minister? So, unless the NPP does their job, and we need a really unified opposition, but I really don't think that UMP and SJB should be getting together. That's not Kusum what I call a unified opposition. I'm saying gather all the opposition forces, including the ones that belong in minority parties. Create a very united front.
Okay, but can I say a little something that might be controversial? We have to unify within the SJB, I think, personally, right?
Yeah.
And that should be the priority first.
And I'm going to tell you something, right? I'm going to tell you something that I really want to say online. I may have my professional differences with Sajid Premadasa, Mr. Premadasa, but I have nothing but respect for him, and that is just how I see my relationship with him. But you know, it's really unfair when the SJB continues to criticize him and say that he is the one responsible for all this, and his wife and his friend. When Kusum and I have been a part of so many working committees and so many proposals, Chaminda, that Sajid makes, the objection you see is not inside the working committee, it's outside the media. That's not where it should be done.
That's true.
Okay, you got to fight it out inside that four walls. Yeah. That's what the working committee is
there
there
for.
There's
a little bit of contention in the working committee, but it's not like what you see in the media.
It's not like what you see in the media, because all these guys, they like become real big heroes when it comes to a mic. And then they say, Sajid Mehmai, Sajid Aramai, yeah. But you know, you guys have this opportunity of guiding Sajid in the direction that you want to guide him.
And I don't see
And for that, yeah, exactly. But for that, you need to be critical of Sajid when you have to be.
Sure.
Because then Sajid fights harder.
How do you have Talakatakur, who left the SJB so close to the election? Yeah. How did she and Mr. Rajat Madhumandar, who is, I think he's still the general secretary of the party, right? So how were they doing a joint press conference talking about getting an alliance going? And, you know, a month later, there's no alliance. There's no, you know, deal. It just seems like there's no plan, and that's the worry.
And that's
this
sad. Alliance working really? Are you working towards that?
But this unifying UNP and the SJB, is that a mainstream sort of thinking within the party, or is it just thinking on?
I think there's a lot of support in the party for it.
Yeah, there is. But that is where we went wrong. I mean, these guys not understand the writings on the wall.
Yeah. So I mean, the NPP coming in was a rejection of this transactional politics.
Yeah. And they still don't see it, Kusum.
Yeah, I know. So
the writings on the wall, and our guys still don't see it. Yeah, our guys think that blaming the NPP and giving voice cuts against them is going to weaken them. No, it's not. We need to understand the writing. The people wanted change. They wanted anti-establishment. So why is it so difficult for us to focus on the party that we have nurtured? We have lots of good talent. Kusum was saying the other day, and I was saying, Prasad Sirivadan, I don't know whether you heard of him, tuition master from Gampa, very impressive guy, first time parliamentarian, watch him, he's so good. We have lots of talent. So why do we need the SLPP? Or why does Kusum's party need this NPP? Or the SLPP? Or the UNP?
The UNP, yeah.
I mean, it's okay, coming to an agreement, but it doesn't have to be an alliance. Coming to a working sort of agreement.
Why does the SJB only exists because of the UNPs and Mr. Vikram Singh's failures from 2015 onwards?
Exactly.
So nothing from that has changed unless the SJB has changed. And the other thing is, we know, right, no offense to the other former politician here, but a lot of politicians are essentially careerists, right? They're opportunists. Yeah. They're all about getting their career. So as soon as they see something happening, they're like, how can I get to this side? And they have a quick conversation with their friend on the other side.
Which is wrong.
So this kind of politics
is rejected.
It's rejected.
Transactional.
It's
rejected.
So is there a role for Ranil Wickremesinghe to play?
No, there can't be a role for him to play.
In the future, in any form.
There can't be a role for him to play. Until he answers for the bond scam, for his role in the failures of governance of the last 3 years, the Adani deal, for instance, the VFS scam. Yeah. These were under his cabinet. He is the head of the cabinet. Yeah. The man is sitting at that massive table.
I keep reminding people all the time. I mean,
and Swami, the one really funny conversation.
Sorry, IGP. So we can go on.
And one conversation I had with Kusum was when some of our guys were saying there was no bond scam. Me and Kusum were on the phone, and I was very much part of the SJB then. And I said, if there was no bond scam, why the hell did we leave the UMP?
Right, exactly.
Can I just finish on the SJB critique since we're on this section? I'll just say, the main issue with some members, or the SJB in general, is that they don't have a critique of Jahapalne. They're still trying to kind of flog that dead horse and say that Jahapalne was successful, but we didn't communicate it properly. We made a few mistakes, but we did so many good things. No, politics it's not so complicated. Was it a good or was it a bad? And Jahapalne at the end, with the Easter attacks, with everything that happened, no one looks back at Jahapalne and says, oh, that was such a
amazing
good time.
Thing.
We had these 2 years of, consecutive
prosperity.
Years of budget surpluses. No one cares, right? That was a failure. And now they are saying, there's no bond scam, no one was indicted, the money left the country.
Then why did that government fall?
Yeah, so this is...
And why is it that Arjuna Mahendran still can't come to the country?
Yeah, why did both directors of Perpetual spend time behind bars?
And to face the
Exactly. And Chaminda, one really crazy thing I don't understand is that we appointed a Singapore national as a
central bank governor.
And Singapore doesn't allow dual citizenship.
It's not we, it's Mr. Vikram Singh.
Mr. Vikram Singh, exactly.
Mr. Vikram Singh did that.
Exactly, and they appointed him. And now there's a thing where they say, well, it's not in the rule book. But for example, India doesn't have that rule, but India has never in its history appointed a non-Indian citizen as the head of the Indian bank. The equivalent of the Indian central bank. Right. It's never been done. So, and a bond scam did happen. Because I witnessed the amount of money that was being pumped and given to our local government candidates during that time. So where did that money come from?
So there you go, right?
Okay, and I openly said, I'm not saying this in Parliament, take me to court. I'll tell you where you gave us money. Okay, it was at the no-pay office of Minister Mangala Samaravira where the UMP representatives came and gave every single candidate from 50,000 rupees to 75,000 rupees. So where do you get that money from?
From the bond
Was it from Buhari that the UMP manages?
Bond scam was to pay off those people, I mean, who funded the election.
Arjuna Mahendran entered the dealer's room twice the day of the bond scam. It never happened.
I mean, none of those facts are in dispute, right? None of those facts are in dispute.
No, I don't think, no one is that I can tell. I don't know. Has anybody said that?
So this is why the NPP is strong. The NPP is strong because they're in shambles, no?
But they have to do something about it.
Right. I mean, personally, my feeling is that the opposition is flailing, right? I don't see a clear vision, direction, or even leadership. So you from inside and you from the outside, what needs to happen, first of all, to have an effective opposition? Because you need a good, effective opposition.
For democracy.
I mean, because unlimited power, even in the hands of the most well-intentioned person, could take you in a different path. I mean, authoritarianism is just, it's a fine line, right? I mean, you can see what's happened in the US and so on. So, what do you feel needs to happen?
So, I'll just answer with one line, and then Kusum can answer the rest. Not one line, but stop acting like children and sort your household. That's pretty simple. Stop acting childish. Don't be mature. Follow party guidelines. And for God's sake, if you don't like Sajith Premadasa, vote him out. There is no point in me and Kusum talking about Sajith's leadership. Kusum from the inside or me from the outside, because there are much more senior people than us who are inside. And when have they ever called for a vote? No. Okay, so then I think, Chaminda, why should the SJB why should a problem that the SJB doesn't think it's a problem? Why should it be a problem for me or Kusum? Because we can have our individual opinions, but if the SJB is happy with this, and if Sajith is confident of, Mr. Premadasa is confident of becoming the leader of the country, that's fine. But don't expect us or the new generation of politicians or people who have done politics to idly lay by while the party makes stupid comments or statements. Then I will call them out. But no, I will not call Sajith out. Because if you have a problem with him, deal with it.
Don't go to the press.
Is the internal workings of the party, is there like democracy inside the party? Because that was the big issue with Ranil and the UNP, that internally that there was no
one-man show, no?
Yeah, there was no democracy inside the party.
It's always a one-man show because it's always a one-man show.
Yeah.
When 30, 40 followers in the party allow it to happen.
Yeah, but we are also having this now. I've said things critical about the party. Dr. Harsha says things critical about the party.
Have you ever been warned? No, right?
No. Never
exactly.
Been warned, never had a chat,
That's
never
the beauty of the SJB.
Nothing. Yeah.
Well,
Is Dr. Harsha being sidelined?
I don't see that. I mean, I know this is a narrative.
But is he part of the inner circle now?
I mean, I don't know who is part of the inner circle. It's not for me to comment, but he's part of the working committee. He's there at the working committee. He has a voice. There's no evidence for me that he's been sidelined per se. But I mean, again, I'm very junior compared to
when you say this word sidelined, what my reply to it is, you will only be sidelined if you allow yourself to be sidelined in politics. Politics is not something where you wait for things to fall onto your lap. To grab power to win elections, got to make certain decisions. And I've been very open with Harsha. I've told him, there is no point complaining about things on the outside. If you guys want to take power, then show your power block within the party. If you don't want to do it, and if you're happy with Sajith Premadasa's leadership, go ahead with it. And I sent him that quote, Kusum, in Latin, from John Wick. I copied it and I said, fortune favors the brave.
Can I answer the question about the opposition? Yeah. Because I think I agree with everything that Rehan said. I also see the problem as ideologically, the NPP has moderated, and we just spoke about that for 15, 20 minutes. NPP has moved to the center. Yeah. Now there is a big space on the left because the NPP were the left critic.
A massive void.
They were the people who was talking about the how, AKD's discourse was brilliant, right? He talks about how the quality of life of people, how different it is, right? Some of us go out on a weekend and we could spend 25,000 on dinner with a glass of wine or a cocktail or something like that. There are others who live on 25,000 for the whole month. Okay, so this kind of inequality is something that we used to laugh at when we thought about India. We used to think that's India. Sri Lanka is not like that. But Sri Lanka is like that. The statistics are showing that now, right? We see that our inequality has not gotten better, it's gotten worse. In this culture of freebies that Sri Lanka is in right now, we are throwing away money at all these poor people, but people are still poor. So then show me the evidence for this culture of, so there's a critique of the NPP now from the left that's begging to be made. I see some people with the Frontline Socialist Party making these arguments, but I would urge the SJB to take that position on the spectrum because that's where the public is, and the public needs solutions.
On point.
And the NPP are providing incrementalist, we can do better than Ranil and watch us, make big changes, give us 1 or 2 years. If they think it's going to work, they're not paying attention because all over the world we see, even in the US, President Trump has the worst February ratings of any president in the last 50 years or something like that. So people's ideas of a government changes very quickly. So again, this is all space for the SJB.
Capture.
But I'll come back to Rehan. Rehan said you have to get your house in order, and I think there is something. I don't think anyone can deny. I can't deny it staying from the party.
But it's a bit of a trap for the MPP because they are the party of sort of let's say leading by example, right? Curtailing expenses, returning their per diem, things like that. So they are taking the moral high ground on certain things, which means they are the party that'll do things by the book. They're the rule of law party. So can they use, now you talked about Trump, now he's using power like a cudgel, right? Now on day one when Gota was elected, the first thing he did was he transferred 600 people within the military complex, right? Yeah. Shahani was in jail within a week or something like that. Now if NPP use their power like a cudgel, they have 2/3 power too. Wouldn't it just draw more ire from the opposition?
No, because
I mean, say you guys promised to do this, because one of the criticisms I have is that they're not using the power they have, because there are problematic people, there are holdovers, there are people like the AG. I mean, I can state it out loud because I've been tweeting about it. The police commission. There are so many problematic people that are still there because the NPP has made a decision not to act against them. But if they do, then it'll be a criticism. So it's like damn if you do, damn if you don't, right? Like so I mean,
I don't think the NPP cares what the opposition says, right? They care what their constituents think, what the people who voted for them think. So their actions should be based on what the constituents want.
So do you think
I don't think they should be saying anything in parliament is going to bother them?
No, so Kusum is right. Kusum is right when it comes to that, because one very silly thing that they're doing right now is that because they promise so much unbelievable rhetoric that they're going to deliver, one thing is that the president goes to Jaffna via road now. Now, the president of the country represents, I rarely agree with anything Ravi Karunanika says, but the president of the country, it's an absolute travesty when he spends 7 hours on a road.
Yeah,
okay, because I'm saying the president of the country and the prime minister should be allowed air travel. That's not what made us bankrupt.
Some of these things feel performative for me.
It's very performative when they return
this
things
auction,
like
the vehicle auction. It's headline news 2-3 days now. We are going to have a vehicle auction. We are having the vehicle auction tomorrow. Here's the vehicle auction. We had the vehicle auction yesterday. They had this on the news. I watched the news. So this is the national priority.
They return things like another very silly thing that I saw is they're given an allowance, and when they came back, they returned something like $240.
Yeah, $240.
Who cares?
It was that minister, the minister that led the women's panel.
Trying to show that, but how can you sustain yourself? My question, Kusum, has always been, when you have a mixed system like what we have now, or a proportionate system, an MP has to travel so much on the road because there is no electorate that he represents now. There's a district that he represents. We know that Sri Lankan politicians are among the poorest paid in the world. Okay, there is So, which is why Singapore really increased the amount you pay to politicians. Because they knew that to get a good job done, you got to pay well. Which is why Uncle Nahil constantly says, don't ever go to a lawyer and ask for free advice, because not only will he mess up your court case, but it'll probably mess your whole life up.
We say this is a progressive government, right? So they had a big critique of money in politics. So have you heard of any legislation about campaign finance reform? Have you heard about anything about
how are these guys
transparency in politics?
Chaminda, how are these guys going to survive? How does now we haven't seen this yet, but most of the NPP MPs that got elected are people who have taken leave from the public service, which means they don't get paid from the public service anymore.
I personally believe that they should be compensated.
So what happens? What happens when they are not getting paid?
Yeah.
They eventually will be part of this system, and they will end up being corrupt.
Yeah.
Which is the same reason why cops are corrupt. Some cops. Which is why it's a norm to give 5,000 rupees to get out of a fine. It's because your entire pay is less. It's too little for you to even imagine living a life.
Yeah, I mean, a vehicle should at least be a basic, right? I mean, we met an MP who came and met us. A sitting MP came and met us. Came in a three-wheeler and went in a three-wheeler.
Yeah, so where is
you know, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with using a three-wheeler. I'm just saying a sitting MP should have.
No, but Sri Lankans love this like really bad, stupid rhetoric, you know, where they think all these things. That's why they're doing this. It's very performative. They think, and I had a constituent from Waligama Kusum calling me, and somebody, you know what he told me? He was like, Marune, ara ticket ke salli ai dila ne. You know what I mean? That is not why we went bankrupt. We went bankrupt because of Gotabaya Rajapaksha's tax cuts and his disastrous fertilizer policy. Kusum, which is basically it. There is nothing more to it. So, you know, the country can't make mistakes again. I'm really happy that you know, people like Kusum are still in the SJB, because he still represents a voice that I had within the party. I left for personal reasons. I left because I had a young family. I was spending a lot of time away from them. I wanted to spend some quality time with my 6-year-old and my 5-year-old. I felt like my wife needed more of my time. And like Kusum told me once, some time ago, after this happened, this is not the end for me. But I can't be that voice in the SJB anymore, because I've told Mr. Sajid Premadasa multiple times about some of the decisions he makes. And if my opinion is not valued inside a party, and if I don't see progress within that party,
you take your call.
I have to take my call, because I can't spend time away from the people that love me and need me just because I needed to fight for something else. So I'm glad that even though I'm not there, that my voice is represented through the likes of Kusum. But don't get me wrong, I'm a libertarian, and I had this one question about the death sentence which made me leaning into authoritarianism, but I'm actually a libertarian. Kusum is center left. So our political ideas are not the same. But when it comes to calling out absolute stupidity for what it is, we will do it. And that's why I think he needs to be with the SJB. I don't think I've ever told him, just because I've left, I've never called him and told him, Kusum, you need to leave the SJB. We've never had that conversation. His politics is my politics, my independence is my independence. But I'm making an appeal, Chaminda, to the SJB members who are watching this. Please don't come like gun-ho attacking me and all. Let me be in peace, because if you do, I will react. And you wouldn't want me reacting in some of the things I say. But fix your house. Sort your house in order. Stop this childish behavior. Support Sajid Premadasa if you think he can be the president. If you think he can't, oust him, remove him, do whatever you want. But, you know, unless you guys fix your house, there is no problem looking at people and telling them to fix theirs. Or talking anything about the NPP. Because the NPP party structure, Kusum, we may not like it, but you can't even make a statement against the AKD, they'll get fired the next day. How much indiscipline have we seen within our party?
That's a different conversation, right? Because the conversation is that once you enter parliament, you're representing a constituency. So you have to place your constituency above even your party. That's how you're supposed to do politics. But I don't know if this is what's happening within the NPP, because a lot of personalities have changed.
Transparency has been an issue. Transparency has definitely been an issue. Even journalists have expressed frustration that they can't get information out.
Chaminda, I'm not saying we should be 100% like this. But when it comes to indiscipline, like what we saw with General Sarath Fonseca, or what we saw with the likes of Raj Senaratne. You need to crack down. That can't be allowed. Now, I wouldn't be speaking this way if I was actually part of this change.
But
because we have to give the party the respect it deserves.
Some unity. You have to show.
We have to show unity.
Outside, even though you may be trying to.
But the fact that there's constant fractures like that, maybe to me shows a lack of a firm.
But
hand
this is the story of Sri Lankan politics. Who is the politician who hasn't been fractured in Sri Lanka's politics?
No, but my question.
Except the AKD and the JVP lot, right?
No, and I want to ask it from the audience, right? Kusum, I think we should ask it from the audience, the very a brave group of soldiers basically soldiers who've been representing us from day one at GGY. Okay, forget Sajid. Who do you see as a replacement? Name me top 2 people that we see as possible replacements that
could win national elections.
Who can win national elections? Not your personal belief. Don't get me wrong, I love Harsha. And I think if he wants the leadership, he should call in for a vote, go for it. But unless I see them doing that and showing leadership courage and showing that they want to get this, like how Mahinda Rajapaksa got it from Chandrika. Wasn't given to him.
Well, Mangala convinced us.
Mangala, one of Chandrika's closest, CBK's closest people, went against her and got Mahinda. Why to win elections? So my question to the audience, including you, Chaminda, is tell me a replacement that you see. And I won't disagree with you.
At a national level, it's very hard to see anybody inside the UNP that can replace Sajid Premadasa.
No, I would say this, Chaminda, okay, if there is to be a change in the leadership.
At a national level?
If I have a car and someone says, here's a new car, I should at least ask the question, is this new car better than the car that I already had?
I had before.
Is it new? Is it the same size? What's the efficiency? You're asking questions.
So where's the replacement?
So I'm saying, if you want to be the leader, give us your plan. How will you be different? What are you going to change in the party, the structure of the party, the ideology of the party? Have these conversations and come to a decision and then stick to it for at least a single election cycle.
And then we will agree with whatever you all say about Sajid Premadasa being a dictator, or we will agree.
But you can build a constituency, right? You can build support and things like that.
But who has built
somebody has to. Well, AKD went from 3% to getting a 2/3 majority.
Well, he needed the country to collapse for it.
It's a wave. Electoral, everything's swung to the left. All of that.
But my
circumstances can change.
You have to take advantage of circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
But my question again is that none of us could, even for a second, think of someone.
You can't think of someone.
And that's the weakness of the party, because you have to develop the next level.
Yes.
Now, if
Which
you
is
take
the same issue with UNP,
now, if you take, if you take.
Back to your earlier point of why people voted for the NPP, one reason also was that he was going away from dynasty politics.
For sure.
But who do you see in the two parties that have still that dynasty politics?
Yeah.
Ask that question.
Yeah.
So
and I think we just spoke about the remuneration for parliamentarians, right? Let's face it, you're not going to attract the top talent by having these salaries. So who wants to actually serve is not going to come into politics, right? Because they have to live their life as well. So
I got to be honest and be really honest with you guys and say this. And Kusum, I mean no disrespect to the party you represent. If Mr. Sajid Premadasa listened to what we said, forget me. There were a few others who echoed the same sentiment. Chamindi, you know this.
Well, yeah,
and Harsha did too. Yeah. We got to be honest. If he listened to just a few things, we could have won this election. So I hope he will listen. I'm not going to give up hope on him because there are many qualities about him which make him a pragmatic leader and a leader who listens. For example, if he went for that Mehdi interview, he wouldn't have lost his cool.
I think Mr. Premadasa should do Mehdi Hassan now that Ranil has done it and crashed and burned. So he couldn't have done it worse than this.
But if Mr. Premadasa doesn't realize the weaknesses that made him lose the election, he needs to self-reflect, Kusum.
Yeah, 100%.
He needs to self-reflect and he needs to be the one to sort of realize, am I going to be that leader or not?
Yeah.
And if he says yes, show something different to the party and make them all rally behind you. Yeah. But if you think you can't, then hand it over like Mr. Wickramasinghe didn't do it. But give it, exactly. He never did it. He never gave, to your question, Ali, he never gave that sort of second generation leadership. But Mr. Premadasa
is still the second generation leadership.
Yeah, so give it to people.
So
if Mr. Premadasa feels he is not up to it, He's still a very respected politician in this country. I would still not call him a rogue. I would still say that I find him much better than many other leaders. He has to make a call and decide if he's going to continue.
Well, I mean there's a local government election coming.
And that's going to be the litmus test.
That will be like a little referendum on this government and also
and on Mr. Premadasa's leadership.
Sentiment on leadership.
You're absolutely right.
And then after that, there's another 4 years to sort of figure things out. I suppose things can change, circumstances can change.
I personally feel the NPP, its inexperience. I think they've come into. They never expected it to be as difficult as it is. They're fighting bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And they don't want to rush into anything because they don't want to make a mistake also.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're not transparent
and
about
follow
what
rule
they're
of
doing.
law. And follow the rule of law.
Spot on. This is my exact, if you ask me for a word by word definition of this government, is exactly what I would have said.
Yeah.
They have...
I'm sure they're doing stuff. Nobody knows what they're doing.
No one. And Kusum, do you remember how really good they were on their comms, Macha?
Yeah.
When they started grabbing power. But the minute that they won, it's as if...
Sorry, the UNHRC, what came out of it? I mean, we made a representation saying we don't believe in international mechanisms.
Basically, it was a continuation of the same policy.
It's the same
there was no change in the stance.
So I'm asking for changes.
So we've gone like over an hour.
Yeah.
No, but I just want one more thing to tell you. Yeah. If this government doesn't do anything very serious against the Rajapakshas, and I'm talking about concrete convictions. I'm not talking about...
I don't think we can wait 2 years. I think it has to happen.
If that doesn't happen within a year, you mark my word, I said this at your podcast, that Namal Rajapaksa, this is paving the way for a 2028 run to him. And it is very scary, I know, but that's going to be the bottom line.
And Namal Rajapaksa is looking like a good candidate more and more. He's actually looking very good.
And think of it, he's my age, and he's already a fourth-term parliamentarian.
Yeah.
And he's not even 40. Okay, so the government, unless they do something, that the people are going to, because that's the same voter. That is technically their voter.
Yeah, I mean those frustrations will come out. It'll depend on what they do on the law and order front, right? Which is why I feel unless they tackle what's going on with at the AG's department and things like that, you're not going to see any because you have a holdover, essentially a Ranil Wickremesinghe appointee there.
You know that Deshabandhu Tendakona is still the IG, right?
He's the IG. I keep making this point all the time. He's the IG. We have to...
And if the Supreme Court lifts that suspension, he's back to being IG.
Yeah.
And then there's an entire 6-stage process to remove him.
Yeah. The Parliament can impeach him.
No, so you know how that... but you know the steps one by one,
If you can't do it with 160 parliamentarians, you're not going to do it.
No, it's not as easy as that. The president first has to give his recommendation and fire him.
Yeah.
It then has to go to a 3-member or 4-member committee appointed by the president, which includes the AG. Now here's a catch in that, which includes the AG.
Yeah.
That has to go back to the ethics committee. That again has to go to the Constitutional Council. Constitutional Council has to put it to Parliament, and then it's through a majority vote.
But my point is,
so even the Constitutional Council, it's still pretty much...
So that's why they can't remove the AG.
You know?
Because it's according to the public officials removal procedure or something article.
But the AG can be independent. He has to be, sure. But when the president has now called for the IGP to be replaced and the president has this mandate, surely the AG has to consider that.
And this AG doesn't seem like he's listening at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were things that we wanted to get into in terms of the economy and the budget. We had a few slides also. I wanted your comment on the
Kusum's economy,
on the budget and what the IMF chief had to say about.
I'm going to keep quiet.
But I think you know what I think about this stuff. So I don't want to go into it.
But he goes on to say that people will even return. Could even return to Sri Lanka.
Well, I'm sure they could.
No, he said people don't have to migrate. It'll be good here. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. But but we've kind of like gone.
Do you think it's likely? I mean, someone who
the only solution for this is
Australia
BRICS.
and builds a
Let me repeat that to you: BRICS. Our only savior will be BRICS. And Kusum,
I might disagree a little bit.
BRICS, because there is China, there's India. They have their own version of the IMF, and they have they contribute to 25% or 30% of the world's GDP. And if the IMF, I'm just saying, so Kusum, I'm just saying BRICS, but
yeah, I mean, I no problem with the BRICS, but I just think our number one export market is the US. The second one is the EU.
Yeah.
So
Harsha made a tweet about that. He's getting attacked from all sides. He said with the tariffs coming in, we have to have a strategy in terms of how we approach our biggest
because there is no
market,
guarantee,
which is the US.
if anything.
Is that correct? I saw somewhere that US will impose tariff on us, that is our garments.
Yeah, but what they've said is different. What they've said is that they will impose tariffs reciprocal tariffs on any country that is a BRICS nation, but they've also said at the end that any country that supports a BRICS nation. Yeah. So I don't know how.
It's open-ended.
Yeah. So yeah, actually the discussion we had was a little different to the one that we had planned, because this dynamic is interesting.
Yes.
Because now you're independent, right, and you're within the SJB, and I think we got.
I mean, when you say within the SJB, I've been there for about 5 minutes, right? So I'm
but Kusum is one of those guys.
We got a pretty unfiltered kind of a view about.
But Kusum is one of those guys where. This is why I don't miss being in the SJB. I would get random text, from SJB members saying, "Look at what your friend Kusum has said." He represents the working committee, and I'm like, "Don't tell me to filter that boy. We couldn't do it for 20 plus years, and we're not going to do it now."
Okay, finally, because we've gone over, and we'll put everything aside. If you were in power now, if you guys were in power now, what would you have done differently?
Well, if the SJB had won the election, you're saying.
What would
the
you have done?
SJB said that they would renegotiate the IMF agreement in a manner that enhances growth. And that is what the SJB should have done. If they didn't do it, I would be saying the same thing as well. Because my point is, I'm looking at things from an economics point of view. I don't think our debt is going to be sustainable in the way that the IMF suggests. So we have to go beyond what the IMF says in terms of our exports, in terms of our revenue. We need to be hitting 18% tax to GDP, in my opinion. So I would have expected that should be the SJB's argument right now, because the NPP haven't done it.
Okay, so I think therein lies the problem, because how do you make that a populist message?
It's a very populist message.
You know what I mean? Because the answer was, it's a wonky answer.
But
right?
it is a populist message, because if you think about income earners in Sri Lanka, there's only very few income earners in Sri Lanka relative to the entire population, and you're only trying to tax the top 20-30% of income earners. Yeah. That should be the way, because I can tell you that you, me, anybody in this room is paying way too much tax. Because we are paying income tax, we are paying VAT, we pay import duties. This is not how an economy, what part of our economy is consumption? A huge portion. Just check, maybe 60-70%, right?
Yeah.
How is consumption going if you have 25% tax overall on everything?
They also need to widen, they do need to widen the tax.
More people should be paying tax.
The people who are dodging tax.
And the richest people should be paying their fair share. And
exactly.
I just want to point one thing out. I've been told, if I say a rich person should be paying a higher rate of tax, they say I'm a leftist. This is progressive centrist economics. If you read Adam Smith talks about people with more means paying more. According to their means. Yeah. That's progressive taxation.
Not lefty,
That's not leftism, that is centrism. But our world has gotten so confused around these things that some people now say that tax is theft. So that's an actual discourse in the US. If you ask a lot of people, they think tax is government theft. So we are in a precarious situation. The NPP is from the right side of this argument, in my opinion, but they've kind of abandoned those principles, and I don't think that that's good for our country. That's just my opinion.
Right. So rightly or wrongly, people expect the NPP to deliver on the justice accountability front, right? I mean, that is the expectation. And, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but people want to see results, right? We want to see results. Chris used to read a long list of things that we were waiting for justice for.
But some of the guys who slashed your tire? Still hiding, yeah?
Still hiding.
Must be Deshabandhu.
And the gang that attacked GGY. We actually gave footage with number plates and all of that.
So nothing.
Justice, right? Justice is about this.
Progress of it?
Nothing.
What about the attack on Gota Goyaya and the attack on GGG itself? Those were major things, right?
And nothing.
Nothing. So that's.
But do you expect the people to believe that if the SJB came to power, that there will be justice for some of these things. Looking at the composition of the party right now.
If someone tells me they don't trust or believe in the SJB, I mean, that's an argument they can make, right? Everybody has, I mean, I have said this on Twitter that if the SJB was the opposition and the NPP won the election, it wouldn't be the worst thing for the country either. The NPP were coming in with a good plan. I'm just saying they are not executing it. And we're going to get into trouble because of this. And they are going to get into trouble because of this. When election time comes in 2030, that's when our repayments are going to start. So just watch it. They're asking for trouble.
Yeah, so they got really serious things like
well, this is why you need a credible opposition, so that you don't have Namal coming in through the you know, you know what I mean? Like sentiment can swing.
My only problem is, Shaminder, like Sri Lanka's liberal parties have always struggled to win majorities. Ever since the J.R. Jayawardena period. I mean, when has a UNP or an SJB or anything that's liberal come even close to power?
I would blame leadership for that, Kusum. I would blame individual leadership.
Maybe.
I mean, we did have really good
even
leaders in those parties.
Was on the back of
unfortunately, they all died.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they couldn't even put a president of their own party.
They couldn't.
No, but Kusum, I also think we're very unfortunate because how many of our guys died?
I agree.
Yeah, we've had the cream of, you know, Sri Lankan politicians who are in the UN who died. Entire Kusum, for Mr. Vikramasinghe to be the president, to be the opposition leader in 1994, entire stream of leadership had to die. Lalita Thurathmudali, Ranjan Wijeratne, Gamini Disanayaka, Gamini much later.
Yes, correct.
But then Karu Jayasuriya, he naturally got old and.
Well, Karu Jayasuriya is an example of someone who was blocked, left the party and joined the Rajapaksa government and came back. So
I think it's circumstantial because we are unlucky, and that
I think you have to make your own luck sometimes, no? And liberal parties have to understand that if the population is not with you, bring them along.
So finally, there are certain things that we fought for, like abolishing the executive presidency, which do you no, because it was an explicit election promise as well. Do you see that as a realistic expectation right now?
No one's going to abolish it.
Has anybody spoken about it?
And repealing bad laws like repealing the PTA.
You're the first person who's spoken about it to me this year. Nobody has talked about it.
No, I've been tweeting this repeatedly.
Nobody said this to me ever.
Why would you give up a tool that it's the same thing? What's that guy's name in Lord of the Rings? Gollum, right?
But it is also the tool that brought us to where we are.
Yeah, but once you sit on that chair,
sort of power.
No, but then once you sit on that chair, I guess everything changes, huh?
Yeah, but their vote base wants the president. Right?
Because when you have
technically also it's very difficult because this is not my view of it. Watching somebody talking about it, because our whole administrative system, governing system is based on this executive president. The minute you change that, this government system, whole thing has to change.
So you need
we need a brand new constitution.
And I don't know whether
which is something that the NPP promised. A new constitution.
To change the constitution, whether we have that caliber of people, I don't know.
No, I don't want to be unfair to him now. No one, if Sajid Premdas became president, I don't think anyone is going to be saying you should give up the presidency, right? But should he be the finance minister still today, to this point? You've signed all the agreements now, right? That deal is done. IMF program is done.
Again, that is the disproportionate power of the presidency. The fact that
he
can
hold the executive presidency is already powerful. Then you add finance minister, one of the biggest functions in any government. Then you add the defense minister. So
which is even so you're basically
you know what's going on.
Yeah,
right? You know what's going on.
Also, the three pillars of government.
I'll give you guys 1 year. You should be back on the street because I don't think anything's going to change. And I'm sorry, you're going to give up a few of your evenings.
Because I don't want to get arrested. I'm supposed to go abroad. Because I don't want to get arrested before I go.
The IMF told us 2 years ago that specifically that the president, being the minister of finance, is a governance deficit.
Yeah.
So here we are with the good governance government, right? So there we go.
Right. So shall we leave it on that?
Sure.
The discussion.
Thanks a lot for having us.
A few left turns, but it's
I've never been in an interview where I didn't feel time like fly.
Yeah, it's already 8
gone. The audience and I've known all of you all.
Can I give one bit of information that I know personally about these customs? They're working on that custom project to have 3 layers of duty, because the present customs duty system is structure is based on this SS code,
Yes,
which
SS
is
codes,
in
yeah.
House, and the book is about this much.
Yes,
They are
yes.
trying to bring it to 3 levels. That's the only way to control the custom measures. At the moment, they have recruited people to the finance ministry, senior people from customers, some people that I know, personally know, and they are working on that project. You can't do it overnight.
No, of course.
To bring that 3 layers of duty. If they get that thing through, might take some time. I don't think that they can do it. It's done in the.
I think
Game changer.
I think this is breaking news, by the way.
No, I think this has to happen. It has to happen.
If you want inside information on NPP, we have to bring in our free.
No,
They are
it's
doing
true.
it.
That's good.
They are doing it
That's
because this guy, I mean,
That's a positive.
customs people, I mean, you know, they anyway earn money, you know, I must do something for the country. One of my personal friends, I mean, he's there at the system, and they are doing that. So there is a lot of things that are happening which people don't know. They're working very hard.
But the thing is, they should also communicate. I
There's
think
a
transparency
way
is key,
lack of transparency.
right? Because when journalists are tweeting about the lack of transparency, and these are credible journalists, not like.
You know, I feel with the appointment of I hope with the appointment of the new media consultant, no, that Sirasa guy, yeah.
Well, maybe things will
Sirasa
change.
guy,
Actually, I think
directors.
when he was just the 4-person cabinet, Vijay Dahera did a much better job communicating. When he was just him, remember when he was talking and he was very accessible,
so maybe
right?
they will have that communication because people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, the slight complexity is that on one side, the customs duty is a big part of Sri Lanka's revenue, right? But the more customs duty you have, the less liberalized your trade is. And that's overall a problem for us, right? We have to make money from our customs duty, but at the same time we have to make this process much easier of getting things in, getting things out.
I think that's what they're working on, no?
Yeah,
They are working on that to get three layers.
Yeah, so it basically boils down to communications.
Yeah.
Put it out there and tell the people what you're doing. And little things that they have to fix.
And also this strike that was going, these containers, I don't know whether it is cleared or not cleared. The container issue was because the new customs director, of course, was appointed by Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. He did a good job. He still did. He increased the revenue of the customs, and he also, removed some of these guys who were sort of, but 5 people are transferred. And the strike was really put pressure on the current government to get rid of that director. That was.
And it also doesn't really help the president to reform customs when his secretary is also ex-customs officer.
No, that is a good thing because he is a highly qualified guy.
And a good,
He is a highly qualified guy on customs. So it's better to have him on you. Get somebody who is really good.
Which
at
is why
that.
we this.
But will there be a conflict there when they come when they try to enforce
actually
this?
Some of the custom people are quite happy because they were very, very scared when the JVP was coming power in PP.
They'll all be dismantled.
Yeah, so when this fellow was appointed, he just a little bit.
Yeah, I know. No, we are not getting your audio properly, and I don't think this is. I think we lost your mic.
Your mic is
in
not
your
there.
dress. So, anyway, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much.
Appreciate it.
Very generous with your time.
Great time.
And
didn't feel it at all.
So I think our kickoff of the roundtable discussion. I think it was a good chat.
Continue like this,
we changed the format a little bit. We stopped the day count and all of that. No, because I think we need to move to another phase, but we haven't given up on the system change goals.
Yeah.
So the things that we fought for, we will start to
Start
remind this government
soon.
that they promised a lot of this, like abolishing the presidency. I mean, even if there is no conversation about it now, a process needs to start. If there's going to be that,
And it's not even,
it's
I mean,
gonna happen.
they promised or not, we need
they
it,
have
right?
to do an entirely new constitution.
Yeah,
so that
and that
but
also needs to be a
maybe that we need,
conversation.
But we don't know.
Yeah, and they have gone back on certain things that they had promised.
PTA.
Like repealing these bad laws. I mean, absolutely nothing on that. Sri Lankan Airlines, completed
went back
around
on
the
that.
PSA. I mean, there are multiple things.
I think there's also a problem with the fuel price formula, right? Or the electricity board. One of these, the formulas, they're saying it's not cost reflective anymore.
Yeah. So early days, but I guess time will tell.
We'll meet again soon and discuss.
We will revisit at some point.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. So good luck with your podcast.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Everyone tune in. It's called Hard Knocks with Kusum and Rehan.
You're going to have a podcast.
Yeah, no,
we already had our first episode.
What is the name
It's
of it?
called Hard Knocks with Kusum and Rehan.
Yeah.
So we had Dr.
Both of you all.
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing a podcast together.
So
It's not released yet, right?
it's not now. The
But let us know because
episode
I
still
like
So
editing.
the first guest was one of our guests as well.
Pakisoti.
Pakisoti Sarvabhuta was the
Was our first guest.
Yeah.
So
But if you
both
need,
of you all are bringing
So
guests.
both of us are
Contacts to I'll
interviewing.
let you know.
So if you need an NPP whisperer, you can ask Auntie Mom. Like she'll get you the.
I think we have someone with the pink hair also, so
Right,
it's
exactly.
giving the game away.
Yeah.
Really support, I think.
That was, I did it in a hurry and forgot to put the brown.
No, but it's nice. I like it.
I like it. It's pretty cool.
That's the
So-
color the NPP should be, but they're not.
Well, so far the pink ideology is winning.
No, they are more green. No, they are like UNP.
Well,
I don't see
so
anything
far,
pink in them.
in fact,
if
Harsha
they
is the
were
one who
pink,
said-
I'd be supportive of them.
Harsha said when he was on the round table, he said there's a battle of ideologies within the NPP, the red versus the pink.
And the UNP one. I don't know how that happened.
And the pink one, that strategy was
So
done by...
far, look, I mean, for me
Finally
personally,
want something.
as long as nothing catastrophic happens, it's a success.
But
Right.
Harsha, but when you do speak to Harsha, tell him my quota, what I said, fortune favors the brave.
Brave, yeah.
I'm
yeah.
sure. I
We'll,
think
we'll
that would
hopefully
take
have
it
him on
low.
soon. All right, guys. So we'll
Thanks
wrap
a
it
lot.
up. Thank you so much. So before
Thank
we
you, sir.
end, Alicia has a quote.
I have two
two quotes.
Yes, so one is holding the government accountable is a crucial aspect of a functioning democracy.
Yeah.
So we do need opposition. It's the people who are now the opposition,
Yeah.
like it was in the last 2 years.
And if that continues, it'll be another Aragalet
exactly
type of a situation,
Really
right?
don't want.
If there is no, if there's a vacuum. where-
Without USAID, can we have an Aragalia now? Tough.
I can't believe they blame them for that also.
Yeah, I know.
Really.
And my second one is patience, the calm acceptance that things can happen in a different order than the one we have in mind, which is that people are getting impatient, that they're not seeing results or immediate results, but it takes time.
Yeah. Agreed with both of them.
There you go. Right, gents. So thank you so
Okay.
much. All the very best in whatever you guys choose to do. And let's revisit maybe
you, Chavinder.
maybe in a,
And
we'll give it a
Rehan,
bit
will
of time.
consider
wrong,
running in the next election, please.
Yeah, you had to get back on the horse or the elephant. I don't know.
Anything but the elephant. I thought we agreed on that.
All right, thank you guys. So we'll wrap it
Thank
up
you.
from the roundtable discussion at GGY, and we'll probably be back in a month. I think we can do this monthly.
Monthly,
And,
yes, it will be nice.
We will hopefully have an NPP MP.
Can
will
we and
join-
Kusum come and
You
can we be part of the audience?
Yeah,
Since they don't accept any debates from us. Since Chaturanga runs away from debates.
You'll get scolded for trapping them.
You know, we have an election coming up, so so I think people will come.
Can we
Yeah,
do
of
that?
course, you're most welcome.
But don't ever tell them that they won't come, okay?
They won't come. They won't come. I haven't been able to. I only debated one in PAP so far. So.
Okay, all right. Well, Lakmali Himichan.
Lakmali, that's
on TV.
I think I debated them all, I think. Right.
Haven't got anybody else.
All right, so gents, thank you so much. Thanks
Thank you,
to the
Shamil.
team. Anu CK, thank you as usual.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the roundtable discussion, and we'll see you again in a month. Thank you. Good night.